Okay.
Okay, everyone. Welcome to this IBT catch-up session. And I think, as people know, Rachel has kindly agreed to share with us some photographs and some stories from her time with the midwives in Brazil. So, Rachel, over to you.
Okay. Hi. So yes, back in November, I went to Brazil in Florianopolis, which is just below Rio de Janeiro, or it's about 3/4 of the way down the country on the coast. And it's a place made up of lagoons, and it's very rich and luscious jungle area. And basically I'd gone there. I'd been to Brazil 40 years before when I was 18, but I'd never been to this area. So I went for a year when I was 18 to Brazil. I had an attachment to Brazil. And then during COVID, online, because I'd never really been online before, I met and started talking to Naoli Vinaver, who I knew, well, I discovered her name and Googled her and saw that she was a Mexican midwife who lived in Brazil. So I then I set up a Zoom call with her just to get to know her a bit. And then I didn't realize that she's actually very like an internationally renowned person. So the more I read about her, the more I suddenly realized what an amazing person was. I just felt an affinity with her. And then when I met her online, she was like such a warm person and had so much experience. I thought, I've got to meet her. And then 2 years ago, just after COVID, I heard that she was passing through the UK. So I met her then and did a little course with her. So I've been a midwife 26 plus years. And then I saw that she was sort of presenting a traditional midwifery alongside what she knew, what she'd studied, a clinician. She'd also trained as been to uni and done anthropology before she became a midwife. So that sort of all intrigued me. And then last year, she told me that she was doing this course called Art of Birth, or a retreat come course. And there were going to be other birth workers there. And it was going to be in her birth center that she runs in Brazil, where she's lived for 14 years. She's married to an American guy. And so I thought, I'm going to go there. And I even more wanted to go when I heard that the birth center is in the road called Rua de la Magica. So the magic road is where the birth center is. So I thought, well, that is the place to be. So I went. I absolutely, even though I've traveled a lot, I'm terrified of flying. And 2 weeks before I went, I actually thought, I'm just going to cancel, and I don't think I can face the flight. But then I thought, no, I have got to go. It's for me, it's like a trip of a lifetime. So I'm going. So I got on that plane and I had to do 2 flights and I went. And from the moment I arrived, I had an absolutely brilliant time. And I felt personally that I learned so much from Naoli and all the people there. So on this course, they're about, so it was a very rich, jungly place. That sort of helped that feeling of almost going into like a womb-like place, because when I arrived at her house, which is where her birth center is, it was pouring with rain. It was like fully saturated the air. You know, everything was very damp and wet for about 10 days, which to me is really unusual for it to rain so much. But and it was quite dark, although the sun came out. But I felt that was really that sort of made the hormonal smell of in the air even stronger for me. And so I met a group of women. Let's see if I can we were all women, and they were midwives. So this is the area. It's a very jungly area. And this was going into Naoli's house. So it had everything was brightly colored, very luscious vegetation. That's me outside our little house. And then I went, we had every morning, we had the most luscious breakfast of watermelon and fresh fruit, mangoes the size of avocados, the sort of size of rugby balls. Everything was like big and luscious and full of potential. So, and that's the coastline nearby. So when I arrived, there was day one, we all went in and sat in a circle in her house, and there was Naoli sitting on this poof that she herself has invented. So she's invented it for birthing women, and actually that she uses that in her birth center, and it's very, very helpful because it enables the women to have their legs open, to be upright. They've also got some back support, and also the partner can actually sit behind the woman on top of the poof. But she used this poof to sit on for the whole time that she gave us this to give us this course. So that was, I felt, quite an important. And you'll see there's everyone sitting around in a minute, and there was 30 of us. So there was about 5 Russians, 5 Americans, people from Chile, Brazil. There was me and 2 others from England, a woman who I'd only met once before, but we shared a room together at an Airbnb, and that was really nice. And we got on really well, luckily. We were there for 17 days together. And people of all different nationalities. So Naoli speaks 7 languages or more. She speaks Japanese, Spanish, Portuguese, French, English, the list goes on. And but she was going to be speaking mainly in Brazilian Portuguese, and then she had a doula as a birth attendant who was acting as also translator, who also spoke excellent English and Spanish. To begin with, I thought it was going to be hard with a translator, but actually that was really good because it enabled everything to slow down. Because I understand a little bit of Spanish and Portuguese, I found that because everything got repeated, I had time to write things down and digest what she was saying rather than rushing through it. So for me, I really enjoyed, and also the different perspectives of different people from different places. So the first day, when we went in, Naoli was sitting there, and this is the room. It's taken a little bit of panoramic view, I think, but we were all sitting around this lovely wooden room with pictures of birth. We met the women, and first thing, rather than going around introducing our names and where we're from, she asked us to just say our name, and then she wanted us all to share a secret about ourselves. So that was our introduction, because she said that we've all got protective places in our hearts, and that although we can have difficult feelings, with birth and with pregnancy, we need to expand ourselves and be willing to move from the cold places in our bodies, from the sort of secrets and things that we keep down in ourselves, to be open. So she felt it starts from the caregiver, who have to be prepared to share a secret with each other. And she says, when you listen to another person's story or to their secret, it helps you open and expand your own heart. So we went round the group, and that took, every time, there was no rush with anything, but it literally took was going around the whole group, sharing a secret. I can just tell you what my secret was, which wasn't really a secret. Well, it is a secret, but it's that I hate telling people that I'm an only child. And lots of people go like, oh, that's not a secret. And I said, well, it is, because whenever people mention only children, they always say how horrible and spoiled they are. So I feel that I tend to not tell people I haven't got brothers and sisters unless they ask me. Yeah, so that was my secret. But there were all sorts of secrets. There was one woman, her father had died a month before, and she was like, she didn't realize, as soon as he died, she was like, oh, thank God for that. Her whole weight had been lifted off her shoulders. There was another woman who said, she married, she loved her husband, but she wasn't attracted to him. Or there was another one who was married, and she thought her husband was a very good man and really provided for her, but actually she wasn't sure whether she loved him, but she needed him. So that was quite interesting. So it went on like this. So the idea was trusting each other to share secrets. And Naoli kept explaining that the Mexican midwife tradition is to bring things from cold to hot. So it's always about transforming energy from frozen to heat to motion. And she felt that is really transformative in birth as well. So She wasn't really talking about birth as in giving birth, but at this stage she was just talking about this. So you're taking the rocks that are in your system, the rocks that are in your body, I suppose we might call them fulcrums, and letting them open, because she said unless that happens, it's very difficult to give birth in your full capacity and even transform into being the mother that you can be, your full potential. So that's Naoli just explaining. She was very expressive, and she really, really felt that she was, when she's talking and also when she's listening, you really feel that she's there with you, giving 100% attention. That's me with Naoli. So, is this okay, the speed I'm going? Yeah. So on day 2, she talked about truth and the importance of truth in our lives to sustain our energy. And she says, if truth isn't expressed and lived, things don't go so well. And in birth, she feels that the baby wants to be born in a spiritual way, with the heart, the soul, the mind, all has to be in a clean, clear place. Like she says, even if the waters are clear that the baby's born quicker, because the baby's is free to move through to the best potential. She feels the body keeps memories of conflicts and chaos and trauma, but also it keeps memories of fluidity, truth, clarity. So we have to think in what part of our, as the pregnant mother, she thinks you have to consider in what parts of the body she's keeping different aspects of her life and how you can help her to open and release them. She says, you know, after we reveal a truth and we laugh and we often feel a lightness, you know, it's like a weight, a problem has been taken off our shoulders. So this was her talking to one of the, as I say, she's very attentive. She was very physical. You know, I think maybe that's the Latin American side of her. You know, everything was very open, warm. There was loads of people hugging. You know, it's not very English. It was very, everything was up close and physical, and which at the beginning I was like, ooh, but I really enjoyed. So she's put in this bit, she asked us to consider our anima, she calls it, you know, what animates the person, what animates our soul. She said obstetrics, as we know it in the Western world, puts emphasis on the body, but actually, and puts emphasis on the body behaving in a certain way. But she said that the body of mothers is actually animated by their soul, their mind, their spirit, how they feel about things and what they enjoy in life. So that helps them to animate. She talked a lot about tezao. Tezao in Mexican or Brazilian is they said there's not really a good translation for it. They said maybe it's lust, want, need, basically what turns you on. There, I almost look like I've had an orgasm. That's me there, on that drum. I've got a sheen to my face. I keep meaning to put a picture of me just after I've got a picture of me after I've given birth to Danny, and actually I've got a very similar look on my face. It's almost like a drunken look, and I felt that was me. I must have been full of oxytocin because I've just got that euphoric look on my face. I've never drummed before, but just being in that circle of women with us all literally singing the same song and together, and the heat and the feeling, the love and the care and the compassion for each other, that helps to radiate, to bring out this tezao. The opposite of tezao is brosha, which is limpness, when the lust is turned off or deflated. So when you think of things in life that give you tezao, you should look to surround yourself with this, so it inflates your spirit. And particularly when you're pregnant, you're open to tezao. You're open to this to bringing in this heat, to embracing whatever can nurture you and your baby. So elements that turn on Tizao: music, rhythm, heat, organic sound of the drum. We're natural entities. We're just like animals, you know, we can gain with natural energies. So it's about finding ways to bring them out and to nurture them, to nurture those energies. And eating together. So I put the picture of us, all the women, sorry, but eating together. And that helped to bring lightness, you know, at the end of the day, middle of the day, any time of the day, we'd all sit down and also share food together. That was about truth. So here, this was just us writing together. We were writing notes, but I've got a little story about Tizao. So, which is about the bringing out the heat in the body. So Naoli told me she had a lady, a mum, who I think she had a mother that had a very prolonged labour. She was in labour. It was taking a very long time, and the mother was on her own. She didn't have a partner. And Naoli's thinking, you know, what can I do to help this mother? And then she said, into her house walked the gardener. At that time, he was a young 17-year-old, strapping, handsome bloke. And she said to her gardener, would you like to help me in the birth room? And he said, yeah, you tell me what I need to do. So she said, okay, I want you to go off and have a shower. She said he was slightly muddy and sweaty from being in the garden, but she said, go off and have a shower. And you could come back after your shower, but keep your top off. So this young man came back, very willing, kept his jeans on. She said, I'd like you to go into the birth room, and I would like you just to hold this mother. You know, she's reached a little plateau in her labour. We need to help her to bring out the Tizao, to bring out the heat. So she said that she turned the lights down low, and when she looked she maybe put some music on, and then when she looked into the room, she could just see in the light this young man holding this woman up in labour and swaying with her. And slowly he was starting to stroke her back. And each time Naoli looked in, she said she could hear the woman start, So her surges, her contractions were starting to build up with this Tizao, with this oxytocin. And then the woman started to have her baby. So at that point, Naoli got the woman to sit astride the young guy. And he put his hands under her buttocks, and he gave him a good massage. At the same time, Naoli said, she's very expressive, she said, I got oil on my hand, she said, and I went down the woman's breasts and down her arms, and I was massaging her. And then the woman had the baby into the young man's hands. This young guy who didn't know the woman, he was present at her birth. And it was only years later that Naoli still knows this guy. He's only 25 now. And he said it was one of the most amazing experiences he's ever had. He said sexuality didn't come into it, but it was really that sort of energy that really, really has stuck with him, and he's remembered that day for the rest of his life. So some people, like that young man, they say yes to life, you know, to that experience. So that's about bringing heat out of the body. So this was just to show you, this is Naoli. She would talk about all sorts of things. Yeah, basically she was talking quite freely about sexual energy and sexuality. And, you know, all the time that she was talking, her little grandchild would come in, sit down, listen to what she was saying. You know, there was no hiding what she was talking about. So it wasn't prudish at all. It was completely open, and the little girl sat actually for a couple of hours on and off through the day, listening to all the stories that Naoli had to say, which I thought was really, really lovely to be that open. And Naoli herself said that she had attended birth. She said when she was a little girl, all the animals in the house used to give birth on her lap. So they used to say to her, Naoli, you're the midwife of the house, because the cat would come and sit on her lap, or the dog would come and sit, and they'd pop out their puppies or their kittens. So, and then Naoli, when she was 14, apparently, she used to attend births with her grandma. So she sort of started observing and knew the importance of quiet, holding the space. So, what an amazing experience to have from a very young age, attending all these births. So this was day 3. We went on to ancestors. So Naoli was talking about, we first started the day with everyone sitting around, and she asked us to make a necklace of pearls, not a literal necklace of pearls, but she wanted us to go round and each offer our pearl of wisdom that we had learnt or that we felt that we could offer to the group. So everyone said various things. From some people said unconditional love. Someone said my pearl is humor. Someone said they were gratitude. Some person said they have a fear of birth. Someone said they were leaning into sisterhood and trust. One person said something she'd learned even by the 3rd day, the best thing for the birth is to learn to listen to the woman. Someone else said everything we need arrives at the right moment. We all have it within us. I realize the same thing that gives me tazal, looking into the eyes of someone I love, also gives me a feeling of safety and security. So it was a few hours just going around slowly around the group. Someone said, I realize birth has no beginning or end. Once you are born, life starts. So each day, each hour is a new birth into the next moment. So this is what, and in talking about the ancestors, Naoli also talked about, so I'm just looking, there's so many notes. Yes, so she was talking about, so I was thinking in my ancestors, literally in my family, I haven't got anybody that I know that was a birth worker or birth keeper or a midwife. They're all artists or tailors, Jewish tailor. And so that was quite interesting to me to think back. I was thinking, I wonder if there's anyone in my family that's been a midwife or anything to do with birth. So people were talking about, and that's when Naoli came in and said that she'd attended birth since she was very young. And it was the whole day was spent just discussing our pearls of wisdom that people had said, learning in sisterhood, everything we need arrives at the right moment. Never be disconnected from nature. I understand that when I was gestated, life was difficult for my mother. Through my life, I have found difficulty to recognize my shining light, my pearls. Constant journey. This is Naoli, very expressive. She'd go from 1 minute being very serious to completely animated. And then she'd finish the day with the drum. So on day 4, we were discussing intuition, where it comes from, how we cultivate it, how we can rely on it throughout our lives. When you have a connection with the mother, and she says, for intuition, when as the birth keeper or the midwife, we have a connection with the mother and the baby, if necessary, something will come up if we're really connected with them and we can use that intuition. And I've got a story about that. She said it's a state of presence. She said over time, over the years, that she's gradually built up her intuition. It's a sort of quality, a spiritual connection, the same as making love making. So when you make love in a connected way, you know what the other person's thinking, and so does the lover. The bodies come together. Where does one exist? Where does one start and the other stop? Sometimes it's images, colors. You have the same vision. So she feels that in birth, the mothers have visions and feelings, but they're ready to empty. And when the midwife or the birth keepers are listening to them, they're with them, they know them, they're trusted by them, the women can let themselves go. Naoli did say that one time, if she's ever in a difficult situation, she's closed her eyes and thought, okay, just take a moment. And then she said she feels like her ancestors are at her shoulder blades. They're behind her, helping her and guiding her. So, and that's, she's going with her intuition as well. Just looking for my story. So she says, babies are very sensitive. They also remember things. When they're born, she said one person on the course described remembering their dad's breath at the birth when their dad's face was near them. She said midwives and particularly Western medicine, tends to focus selectively, so it doesn't rely on intuition. We focus on what we want to see and receive. So sometimes obstetrics, which is just built on technology, we're missing 3/4 of what is required really to give birth in a gentle, peaceful, with your full potential. So it can disrupt everyone's lives. So she did talk about, there was a midwife had come to see them, she said one time, and she talked about these theta waves, which is when we're in a dreamlike state. Satya, you probably know about these, but so she said, when I know that women, when they're in labor, they first of all, they're in the rational mind in the early labor where they can answer questions. They're looking around. Am I safe? Can I, is this a safe place to give birth? Is my partner nearby? But then more and more as the labor progresses, as the endorphins build up, as the oxytocin builds up the contractions, they go into this liminal phase, which is the betwixt and the between phase, almost like a dreamlike state. So Naoli feels, as the midwife or as the birth partner, that's also the state that we should be working towards. So she said from the beginning, when she gets called to a birth, she has for a very long time, she has a song that she sings on the way in the car, that she'll sing to herself, and she'll add in the person's name. So that seemed a really beautiful thing. I know I've always used to listen to the same CD and probably sing along with it, but Bob Marley, everything's going to be all right. Hey, don't worry. But 2 o'clock in the morning, so she feels she makes the connection with the woman by singing this song and singing their name. And then the midwife and the mother, they need to be in this sort of liminal, dreamlike state in order to be open to each other and to receive each other, to receive that compassionate care. So it's like a dream time. And the midwife, sometimes Naoli said she often would dream actually about the births before they happened. And she said, Naoli did say, it's got, asking for the presence of our ancestors, being able to go into our dreamlike state. That's a place that's always there for us. That can be open and a place to connect. It's got nothing to do with spirituality. She said, we believe in Wi-Fi, cell phones, but not in our own internal Wi-Fi. We just have to turn it on, stop the outside noise, and just let go inside and receive. Yeah. So she said, is this making sense? So one time she told us, when she did that, she had to call on her ancestors, was another little story she gave. She said one time there was a mother who wanted a home birth. She was afraid her baby would not breathe at birth, and she was afraid of postpartum hemorrhage. So she had two fears. And during her birth, this woman was screaming, I can't do it, I can't do it. When the Naoli did an examination, the woman was 1 centimeter dilated, and she was crying and screaming that she wanted to go to the hospital. Every time Naoli looked at the husband, she said, shall we take her? And the husband said, no, the woman wants a home birth. This mother wants a home birth. Anyway, the baby was born, and the baby didn't breathe at birth. Naoli gave 5 breaths, and the baby started breathing. But then the mother started to have a hemorrhage, and the cord snapped. So the woman had been convinced that 2 of these things had happened, and they were happening. At that instant, Naoli said, hundreds of midwives came out of her shoulders. She said she felt behind her shoulder blades. She said she felt the presence of hundreds of midwives from the past. And she said, I started talking to the woman. And I started saying to her, I need to go in and find your placenta, because the placenta hadn't been delivered yet and the woman was bleeding. The placenta was embedded in the cesarean scar that she'd had a previous cesarean. Naoli said, I had to arrange for the woman to be transferred, but in the meantime, I thought, I'm going to go in and try and remove the placenta with my hands. So that's a very, very difficult thing to do. It's called manual removal of the placenta. But what Naoli did, she said, I thought, I'm going to do this with love. So she said to the woman, you are amazing. You're really, really beautiful. She kept just saying to her how beautiful she was. You're going to be doing this. We're doing this together. And actually, she managed to remove the majority of the placenta so that the bleeding calmed down and the woman could go into hospital. The baby had to stay behind because they took the mother immediately to the hospital. And Naoli said she nursed the baby herself. So she gave the baby her own breast milk while the mother went to the hospital, because Naoli had a young child. So this was just a example of Naoli going 150% to look after this woman, having the belief of the ancestors backing her, on her back, having her back, and being able to take the woman to a safe place. She also said, people think midwives are for low risk births, but a taxi driver can catch a baby. But midwives are for those situations that require help, and midwives do save lives. So that was just a little example. That's back to, this is the luscious jungle. After that, the dodgy story, that's back to the jungle. So on day 5, we went to a place, she was talking about intention, how intention fuels our vital energy. And she introduced a rebozo. So a rebozo, I'll show you a picture if you don't know, is the long, long scarf that you see in pictures of Frida Kahlo wearing. She's got like this red scarf around her neck. It's a long, long scarf or cloth that Mexican midwives use during birth and for pregnancy and for massage. And it's also in lots of different cultures, they use cloth for tying your baby onto your back, for carrying your baby, for carrying a bundle on your head. So the rebozo is used by many South American midwives. And Naoli is like an expert about the rebozo. So she said, with using the rebozo with intention, you can open the energy field in a woman and release the heat. She also said the Rebozo is not a knife. It can be powerful, but not dangerous. You know, something soft cloth, it's not going to hurt the women. It is difficult in Western medicine, as I say, that, you know, they'll sometimes say, oh, you can't do that unless there's a policy for it, or you can't do that. You know, the NHS, for example, can't recommend it because it's not this, this, and this. But like Naoli said, you know, if it's used with respect, if you use it with intention, purpose, you can, with simple techniques, you can build skill and you can make a difference to a woman's birth. So when your intention is clear, you can move with precision and you can release the potential during the birth for mother and for baby. So this is the Rebozo. There's me and waving 2 Rebozo around. They're 3 meters long. They're sort of loose weave. They're made with cotton so that they can stretch and sort of mold to the woman's shape. That's someone using a Rebozo on the top of the head. Again, if you've got a headache, you can wrap the cloth around your head. You can cover your eyes, cutting out the light, particularly when you're in labor, can help, because that if you haven't got the light going screaming into your eyes, that helps with oxytocin. So the Rebozo can be. So the Rebozo, we can pass on intention and warmth. We move the baby inside the womb and help him engage. That means help him move down into the pelvis. It can be relaxing, can be soothing, can be stimulating, with loads of other things. And sometimes we can just see, like if a woman's complaining of, I don't know, pain in front of her pubic bone and she's in labor, you can just know that the mother needs a little bit of help. So you can offer to help with the Rebozo. You can offer to help her with our hands. The Rebozo is sort of an extension of our hands, and it's it goes with the movement more of the body. So before we started using our Rebozo, we laid them all out every day on the floor, and it was really lovely that Naoli would give a blessing and gratitude to the ancestors for providing us with this amazing tool. And so we would respect and honor and validate the Rebozo that we were going to use on each other. So, because sometimes I've seen Rebozo on Instagram or something, people using Rebozo, but they're like, they don't look comfortable with it. They don't look at ease with it. It's just like it's not just a technique. You can really, like everything, if you start to understand the nuances, you can use it with much more sensitivity. So that's what I'm hoping, or I want to do, or I am doing. So she showed us a Rebozo pregnancy massage, and this was in pregnancy. She said it's important to free the space in the body. After the baby's born, we want to close the space. So what she did was she showed she does the Mexican midwives do this massage or rocking the, so she in the first picture she's just rocking the whole body, swaying the whole body, and then the woman lies gently on the floor. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes. Now in this country, again, we say, oh, you know, the mother won't like to be flat on her back, you know, in pregnancy, but we put a little cushion under her bottom. And actually mothers, I've done it with quite a few people now, they find it difficult to let themselves be free. You know, you're always trying to control one bit of yourself, but if someone else is taking your arm and swaying it, using the Rebozo, you tie the Rebozo around and you sway her arm back and forth. I can try it on some of you when I'm down at Bristol if you want to try it at lunch hour. But it's a really nice feeling. You have your head covered, you can be rocked, you can be wrapped, your legs are freed, and it just gives a feeling of space. And when the woman relaxes and is soothed, her nervous system obviously is downgraded. She produces relaxin, and in turn, the baby is more relaxed. It's getting those hormones, it's getting those feel-good hormones, so it relaxes inside the mum's tummy. So the baby is more likely to cutch up into a comfortable position and also possibly engage. It builds oxytocin, And it's the way of the mother just coming back into herself. So that was a really lovely, very emotional for a lot of women day, just to have that time where you do this freeing up the space in the body, because it's so constricted in pregnancy, as everything's starting to try and stretch, and your cartilage and your muscles don't really want to go, but actually having someone moving for you and with you can really help to relax everything. I completely don't know where I am on my little notes, but anyway. So this, on the 6th day, we looked at funneling our vital energy, our intentions, about listening to others, where we put our focus, our energy goes. So if we're very intense on something, you know, it's like, ooh, you back off. And women, you know, they need our, in birth, they need our focused attention, attention. But if we're too close in, sometimes for some people that would be too intense. You know, they need to feel safe in their own bubble. And we're the keepers outside the bubble, just keeping them safe, keeping the outside noise away, so that the body, the mind, the baby, mother, the hormones can all start regulating themselves and get a rhythm, and the mother can birth in her own power. And so that's about releasing this energy and getting the energy to flow. So the Rebozo can really, really help with that. So she says, you know, where we put our focus, our energy goes. You could be afraid of something and your energy goes towards that. It's like me being afraid of flying. I was putting my energy into being afraid of flying. Actually, what I had to do was focus on the thing beyond the fear of flying, which was that the going and being part of this retreat. So in some ways, I had to take my focus elsewhere, and that really helped me. And in birth, it's important to recognize this energetic flow. Or we're just, you know, flying in the wind. We need to dance and to navigate birth, the different stages with the mother. So I've got another story about of Naoli's. So it was, she had a friend. This is about funneling her vital energy. So Naoli had a friend, and she was having her 3rd child. And there'd been quite a few years between the 1st and the 2nd, and then this 3rd baby. And in the pregnancy, she started getting glimpses of some abuse that she'd had with her father. She loved her father very much, but she just kept getting some images coming to her, and turmoil. And they were with her continuously through her pregnancy. And the woman felt like it was a mud that was continuously sticking to her and taking her energy. She had a world of doula friends, this woman, and Naoli, but she was only able to tell her husband and Naoli that she was living in this difficult state of mind. She wanted Naoli to be at her birth, but Naoli couldn't promise to be there at that point in time. Anyway, eventually at 37 weeks pregnant, the woman was still pregnant. She had a premature labor at 32 weeks, but everything settled down. This woman wanted Naoli to be at her birth. So the woman was hanging on. She was 37 weeks pregnant. And Naoli said, "Are you still wanting a home birth?" And the woman said, "Oh, yes, I am. I've signed the papers and I've come home." So Naoli went and stayed with her for 2 weeks. The mother still hadn't told her team about the images she was having. She was still focusing on this traumatic memory. And one day before Naoli had to go leave, the mother was feeling devastated because she hadn't created the intimacy with her team to open up and to give birth to her baby. So Naoli decided to offer a small ceremony. In Mexico, people make a hot temazcal, which is like a hot room. It's to represent the warm womb of the earth. So Naoli invented a temescal in this woman's house. She invited midwives, doulas, husbands, and they all had to pick objects from the house that signified something profound for them. They had a photo of the woman, a photo of her father, some things that belonged to her family. So Naoli had taken all the heaters in the house, she said, and she'd warmed up this room and she'd made it very, very dark, and all the people went into the room. And she asked every person, she asked the mother, to take a stick, and she wanted the mother to talk about what each thing signified to her that the people had brought into the room. And the mother said, I can't do it, I can't do it. So instead, Naoli said, okay, take each object that we brought into the room and hold it and tell us what it means to you. Or just breathe into it. If you can't tell us, just let's breathe together. So one by one, the mother picked up each object. She started breathing silently and deeply. The team around her was completely silent, holding the space. And the mother breathed and breathed and breathed. When she finished with the last object, the midwives were all sweating. And they said, oh, thank goodness we've done. And they opened the door and they all left very quickly because they all wanted to go back to their computers. Everybody left except Naoli. She was a bit surprised, she said, by their ejection reflex. All the ejection reflex is when the baby's ready to be born and about to be ejected. So Naoli felt like the midwives all leaving, they were having a fast ejection reflex. But then the mother said, oh, actually, I want to go for a poo. So Naoli said, okay, I'll wait here for you. And the mother went into the bathroom and the baby arrived. So all that time she's been breathing, breathing, breathing. She's been letting go, letting the heat come out of her system. Third baby, she had a quick labor and the baby came out in the toilet. And Naoli says she's seen this happen numerous times. The mother needs to align energetically. She's like a key. So when you get the key to click, 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 it will align and it will open. She said the idea was not to solve all the woman's problems or the mother's problems, but it's to open up the space for her to birth. So she had numerous stories like that. And I've seen that myself happen, where the woman's apparently not laboring, nothing's happening, and then suddenly babies. You just manage to help her align, focus mentally, physically, the rhythm, and then the baby's born. Oh, so this was another mother. This is another story. So this is Naoli. You can see her there. She's thinking. She said sometimes she thinks, what should Naoli do? And then this is her. She was with a mother who really wanted to give birth at home, did not want to go to the hospital. She was 3 days getting to 4 centimeters dilated. So 4 centimeters, so that's her doing an internal examination, vaginal examination. I can see she's thinking 4 centimeters. She said the woman didn't have any contractions. She got to 4 centimeters, but she wasn't having any contractions. And the mother did not want to go to hospital to be induced. So Naoli said to her, let's invent the birth. Every time you have a contraction, I'm going to keep my fingers there and you need to push. So I put my fingers inside her and I had a conversation with her cervix. And slowly over time, we opened her cervix. She said the cervix didn't swell up, but it opened fully to 10 centimeters. She said the woman was hanging from the curtains and she was moving as if she wanted to give birth. She said, we were all amazed. We basically invented her birth. The woman's own mother was downstairs praying. And the birthing mother told her to go home. Your ways are not helping me. So it was the power of thought. This woman willed herself to have her baby. She had her baby and she didn't need to go to the hospital. I have to say, I can't see if I was doing that in Britain. I think they'd have something to say about that. There'd be probably a lot of paperwork, but you know, it appears also the mothers have complete trust in Naoli and her skills and her experience over the years. That was just that story. That's Naoli pushing, telling a woman to push. So that's, if the mother's rooted in her own guidance, then let her be, get on with it. Quite often, when a labour is managed, then the mother can become exhausted, chaotic, and that's when Naoli will propose, maybe let's try this. So she gives her some path to take to try. Let's see if putting your hands on, let's see if massaging here will help you. So, and she says, don't be shy. If everything is needed to help that mother and baby, then that's what you should do. Don't just, sometimes you can get people that just let things tick on for hours and hours and hours, and then it goes off-piste. You have to act in a timely manner, so you, for the benefit and the mother and the baby. So this is 2 pictures of birth, and this was just Naoli says, you know, something extraordinary, uses the word extraordinary, not common. It shouldn't necessarily be fantastic or dangerous, but if we are open our minds to conceive variations or manifestations of normal, we learn much more about life. So she's saying these are what we would call normal vaginal births, but they look absolutely extraordinary. You know, you can feel the energy that's there, and actually it's very rare to, it's actually becoming rarer, unfortunately, to have this basic, fundamental, extraordinary birth. And so those are 2 pictures. There's Naoli in the background, water births. So one of the extraordinary births, she said, was, Naoli said, in Mexico, she was looking after a beautiful couple, and he was a traditional, the husband was a traditional musician, and she was a teacher. And Naoli asked, what are your dreams of birth? And both the couple said, we just want the birth to be normal. And the father said, I want to play music when the baby's born. So in labour, Naoli arrived at the house, and Naoli, looking at the woman, couldn't tell if she was breathing in or out, because every time she looked at the mother who was in labour, the mother was going, oh, 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 doing all this really strange breathing. And Naoli's like, ooh, that's not normal, that way of breathing. So she said, and so she's going to collapse if she carries on like that. She couldn't even listen to the baby's heartbeat, because this woman, every time this surge came, she was, oh, ah, oh. And time was cracking on. And Naoli thought, well, what can I do to help this baby move down and to help this woman regulate her breathing? So she suggested to the husband, why doesn't he play one of his traditional songs? So the father sat behind the mother, and he started, I think he had like a traditional instrument. He started playing a traditional song where they call and respond. And the father was calling, in the garden of pleasure, I cut a flower off the stem. And Naoli started responding, singing back in response, I cut the flower for you. And they continued singing like this. And the mother was still breathing really in a disjointed way, but she started trying to sing along with them. And Naoli noticed that the mother was naturally following the father or the husband and her. When they finished their words, they would all breathe in together. They were singing and singing and singing, and they were improvising. And slowly the baby's head started to crown. So the baby's head started to come out, to show itself. And the father was singing, in the middle of my wife's legs, the moon is crowning. The flower petals are opening. And the mother was really calm, and she massaged the top of her baby's head. And there was, Naoli said she was shooting oil at her perineum. And then the baby was born. And at the postpartum talk, Naoli said to the mother, well, how did you feel about your birth? And the mother said, I liked it because it was normal. And the grandma said, we were on the other side of the door dancing because we heard you singing and we thought you were singing for us to dance. So for them, what sounds like an extraordinary birth was actually a normal birth. That's what they wanted. So they got what they wanted. So birth is different for everybody. So if the mother's exhausted and chaotic, though, that's abnormal. But we tend to think, unfortunately, that that is a normal way to be in birth, is exhausted and needing help. But actually, women often gain strength when they're going on with their own resources and their family around them. They gain strength, they gain endurance, they gain momentum until their baby's born. Right. Is this okay for people? I can't tell. I just... So there's another little story about relinquishing control. So this was one woman that Naoli had. I put a picture of a woman singing because this was a woman that Naoli told us about. That she was, Naoli said, this woman was screaming on her toes and couldn't connect her body to with her heart when she was in labor. I took 20 minutes to get her to sit on the loo and relax. The woman kept calling for her mum, and her mum came in, and the woman was a lawyer actually, and the mother explained, I can't do it, I can't do it. And the mother and the grandmother just kept saying, yes, you can do it, yes, you can do it. So the mother just carried on screaming, 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 losing control. And each time she screamed, Naoli could see her eyes were panicking. So Naoli got a birth stool that aren't used anymore, but now she used it at that time. And she said, sit down on here, you need to go for it, you can do it. And what she did was she went from her own drawer, she went and got a vibrator. She put a condom on it and she handed it to the woman. She said, now I'm going to go out the room and I want you to use this at your will. Because basically using that orgasm was going to help to calm the system as well as to bring out the heat in her system and to help to regulate the contraction. So gradually, the contractions started building up. And the woman also started singing opera. And so Naoli went back in the room and she could see this woman in the dark. She had beautiful dark skin, white teeth, pink tongue. She was singing to her heart's content. And then her baby was born. And basically Naoli said the woman was a bit of a control freak. She'd sort of held herself. She was holding herself, trying to hold herself in control in labor. But then she had an orgasm and sang opera, and that helped to bring out her power. And at the end, the mother said, I am so glad I relinquished control. I gave it over to whatever was in the field, and I'm feeling really, really proud of myself. So that was just a little thing. Fortunately, they don't supply vibrators in the hospital wards in London. So back to the Rebozo. This is a picture of Naoli using the Rebozo. So we use it for shaking, sifting, aligning the baby in the pelvis. The baby's in water. So as you can do it, if you get like a jar of peaches or a jar of fruit in water and you'll see you can get the fruit that's around the back of the jar to come round to the front. And basically you're doing the same thing when you use these Rebozo. So it's that idea of getting a baby to optimize and align in the pelvis. It's virtually, unless a mother has an undiagnosed medical condition, it's virtually impossible for a baby to be too big to be born through its mum's pelvis. And unless maybe the mother's had anorexia or something like that that's caused her pelvis to be contracted and not as fluid, or maybe she's had an accident or something, but otherwise a baby can align itself with the pelvis, and the pelvis is soft and malleable and moves, and using Rebozo and massage, being upright, you can help to align the baby and help. And Naoli at the birth center, it's like a 1% cesarean rate. over the last few years. So that is a very low cesarean rate. And not because she doesn't want babies to have cesareans if they need to, but actually it's just about the position of the baby in relation to the mother's position as well, externally of the mother and internally of the baby. So this is a woman lying on the floor, as you can see, and the woman pulling, the birth keeper pulling the rebozo up like that, it'll cause the baby to sort of flip over and become more central. So that's if a baby's lying back to what we call back to back, that can help to encourage the baby to get a surprise and shift itself round. And I saw Naoli do this to a baby that was lying back to back. It literally took a minute. A minute's worth of doing that is much more beneficial than someone going into labor with their baby back to back and it literally taking 12 hours for the baby to go down into the pelvis and move round, when actually you could encourage it in a couple of minutes before labor even begins. So that's what that woman's doing there. This first picture is a bit difficult to see, but there's 4 of us, and so we've made like a cross with the rebozo like that. And then at the center of the cross, there's a woman, a pregnant woman sitting on that cross. So the 4 birth keepers get the woman, and at the same time we lift the woman up and we so the mother's sitting cross-legged in the middle, and what Naoli says, it helps to align the baby onto the cervix and help to correct the alignment if the mother needs help. You've got to be very strong actually to you sweat a lot using these rebozo. So the midwives need to be fit, or the birth keepers need to be fit with strong shoulders. That's her again adjusting my hips. Again, it's about sort of lifting the body up and helping the baby to sort of slip slightly out of the pelvis and then come back into the pelvis. This one on the very far side with the yellow rebozo, that is that bit of the rebozo comes right up under the buttock and next to the perineum, and again and the juddering or the shaking or the jiggling moves right up through the fascia. Also can make connection with the psoas muscle, so release emotion, release heat, gives the baby the baby can also tuck itself in. It's sort of, and it's a way of getting the baby to change its position slightly if it needs to. If it's lying, we call it asynclitic. So the baby's lying on one side or have its head on one side, it can make the baby adjust its head slightly, so it'll help the alignment. So all these positions were to help the baby. The second one is called chocolatito. That's because it's like a whisking like that. And it also helps to disperse adrenaline in the system if you do it on someone's legs very fast. It helps to shake out the adrenaline. And because if you have adrenaline in labor, it'll always outdo the oxytocin. And oxytocin is the hormone that's needed to have good, strong, powerful contractions. But if you've got rising adrenaline, then oxytocin they'll never be in balance together. Oxytocin will always be low. So if you can move the limbs, that helps to disperse energy, as we know, disperse adrenaline, and helps the baby and the mother body to get on with the job in hand. That's a sort of simplified explanation. So this one is remember your energetic focus. So things go where they need to. This was actually an amazing motion. So this is if the baby's head was just starting to show, and sometimes I've seen this quite a lot in hospitals when I used to work in hospital, the baby's head's there, and if they feel it's taking too long, they will do a ventouse or a forceps birth, because they're saying, well, the baby's just there, we'll give you a cut and we'll put in the forceps and we'll pull the baby out. Actually, Naoli feels much better to have the baby born quickly, but also doing the process on the mother. So what she does, she ties, you can just see little bit. 2 Rebozo are being tied around the top 2 pelvic brims, the pelvic brim on one side, the pelvic brim on the other, and then they cross over underneath the woman's legs, and then the midwives join their feet under the woman just near her perineum, and both midwives at the same time they pull and reach back. It absolutely kills your hands, but Naoli said that will pretty much, what it does with the pelvis, it brings the inlet bones together and it releases the outlet. So the baby, actually the head's down here, the baby can be born. You do it slowly. She said you can do it over a number of hours. I only did it like 3 times and it absolutely killed my hands, but she said that will pretty much, that will always work. If the woman has to want to do it though, obviously if the woman says that is not for me, I'm not doing that, then that's fine. You transfer her into hospital or wherever she needs to go. But otherwise, this is about, you have to be 100%, the 3 of you, well, and the partner, birth partner, maybe behind the woman together, doing the motion together. Yes, opening the mother's body, potentially less stressful than a transfer or being pulled out by forceps, because the baby's ready to be born. It's just sitting there. So that was, again, that's just showing you the sort of strength it takes in your arms. The mother has to want to use this method. It can take hours, but it does work. And sometimes you will get women that want, you know, would rather do that than have their baby born by forceps. So that's about expansion. Mother is opening her soul, heart, body. Everything has to be open. So she has to be willing to open everything. This is
What about 5 minutes left, Rachel?
Okay. So what I'll pop through then too is, oh, this is where I like this photo. This is us. We were all feeling our pelvises, our brims, our sits bones, our. So you can see there's a Russian lady, a Brazilian, a British, and a German. It's a bit like a joke, really, but so we all had to explore our pelvis. And then again about tying the baby into position. So I'll go quickly then to the. This was the natural ultrasound. This is what actually one of the best days. And I thought I've never seen pregnant women actually looking so happy as they did on this day. So Naoli showed the mothers and the partners how to palpate themselves, how to feel, because quite often, you know, people just trust going into hospital, being measured with a measuring tape by the midwife, scan to see which way round their baby's lying. And she's saying, look, why not feel your own tummy? Listen to your own baby using your own ear, you know, the partner's ear. You can listen to the baby's heartbeat after about 30 weeks pregnant. And then what she did, once they described where they're feeling the baby, she then started drawing the babies onto the tummies. So it was a way of bonding with the babies. And this lady with the twins, actually, Naoli afterwards, after we'd painted her tummy, she said, this is actually Nelson Mandela's these are going to be Nelson Mandela's great grandchildren. So this woman's expecting twins, yeah. And is married to, must be one of the grandsons, yeah. So all these women, they looked absolutely amazing. I mean, they weren't models, but they looked like they were so happy on that day. And at the end of the day, we all got round them. There's a pregnant cat as well joined in. I mean, it was just the most joyous oxytocin-filled day that I think I've ever been involved with. And it was just such a simple thing to do, such a lovely way to bond with the babies. And I'll just take you through to the final. There they all are lined up with all their babies in their tummies, from 8 weeks up to 39 weeks. So I'll just show you a picture. That's the group, that's the midwives, a bit of a wild lot. And I just take you through. This was did on the last day, but I just wanted to show you the final, when we all said goodbye to each other. And this was finally just to show you. So this was a mother. She'd attended, we had painted her belly. I'd said that she looked like there was a little statue in the birth and in the hall where we were learning. And I kept saying, Ilona, you look just like that is you, that statue above your head where you're sitting is going to be you in labor. And she just wrote to me and said, when I was in having my baby, she said, I remembered you telling me about that statue. So I brought myself up into that position, and she's given birth to her baby. She had a lovely birth. Her little baby's called Seraphine. And there she's got the placenta in beside her, still attached to the baby. She said she had a perfect, absolutely gorgeous birth. And then that's Naoli closed the whole session. That was a whistle stop tour.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. That was fabulous. Fabulous.
Thank you.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, no, it was, I'm still sort of running on the energy from it, really. Thank you.
Are you in touch with some of the others?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. You formed a little community.
Yes, they're called the Healers of the Moon. I think they've called the WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Yes, no, they're a strong lot. And I've been asked to do a talk for the Argentinian Midwives Association. I'm doing a Zoom thing. They just written to me yesterday asking if me and one of my other ex-teammates from midwifery here could just talk about what our team was like and how we worked. That's quite nice as well. That's come from it.
Great.
International stardom.
Oh yeah, I think so.
I think Tatiana said she'd heard of this or done something.
Yes, so Tatiana, I
Yeah.
think she must have come on a course. Yeah, so Naoli's done a few, so I think she'd come on a course in the Czech Republic. I'm not sure whether she went to Brazil. I think she was in the Czech Republic. She did a couple of days.
Okay.
Maybe when she was doing Closing the Bones, yeah.
Okay.
No, she's amazing.
You did 10 days, was that?
Yeah, I was there for 17 days, and
Okay.
so 10 days was actually doing the course, but it was really nice. I was able to, I offered her craniotherapy. So, and in return, she gifted me some Rebozos. So I felt I got a really lovely experience. So I was still involved. Yeah, even on the weekends we were
Okay. Well, do bring them to the potential space.
Yes. Oh yes, I'll come and give everyone a little taster, or anyone that wants a taster.
Yeah.
Do that.
Okay. Anything else anyone would like to say before we close? Okay, then, Richard. Well, thanks again, and it's been recorded, so I will share it with the group, and Rachel, you can watch it all again.
Oh, God. Thank you. See
Thanks,
you.
Rachel. Thank
See you in a
you.
few weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.